Hi, I'm Belinda Wink.
And I'm Glen Wink from Commander Rods.
We've been doing this for about four and a half years, and a lot of people always kind of wonder, how did we stumble across doing this? And I always tell them, well, we're avid fishermen, and of course there's a lot of avid fishermen out there today. But the biggest thing is it goes way back. I grew up on the chain of lakes in Alexandria, Minnesota. I owe it all to my dad. He helped me quite a bit. He was an avid fisherman. I had a lot of family members that were always around the fishing industry, guiding around the lakes area. I learned a lot from them. You know, starting out at a very young age, I caught my first fish when I was 3 years old, and I caught my first walleye when I was 5. And my dad was a very serious fisherman. I didn't get to go unless I did things right. So I had to do a lot of practicing fishing off the dock before he'd take me. And when he took me, I started out with an open face reel. I didn't start out with a Zebco 33 push button. And it was a little tricky for me, and my dad had a lot of patience, but he was very serious about it, and he wanted me to start out the right way. And we'd always go out in the evening after he got off work, and we'd lindy rig. And we caught many walleyes. Of course, it was the evening bite. And you know, I learned how to use an open face reel and caught many walleyes, and I was hooked. And my mom worked the nights. She was a chef at a restaurant locally in town called Andy's Interlocking Inn, which is near the chain of lakes. And that was the go-to place back in the 80s. And you know, we'd go fishing, and my dad was my mentor, my babysitter. And as I was growing up through fishing, I fished every day. I fished off the dock. When he couldn't take me fishing, I had a pedal boat. And a lot of people laughed at me, a girl out in a pedal boat throwing out a beetle spin behind the pedal boat, pedaling along the shoreline, and I was catching walleyes and northerns then. And moved up into a 14-foot Lund with a 9.9, and you know, I just worked my way up. A lot of kids weren't probably as lucky as me, but I worked at it. Everything I did, I earned. I wanted to show my dad I could do it. And I also caught my own bait. A lot of people, you know, they go to the bait store, they get bait, they take it for granted. And I started thinking, well, I need to earn money if I want to buy equipment. My dad wasn't gonna give me money all the time, hand me a credit card or cash to go get everything I wanted. And I thought, what can I do to earn money at such a young age? You're not old enough to go work somewhere yet. So I started seeing frogs jumping around the shorelines on east side of Lake Carlos. And that's where I grew up in my teenage years. I thought, you know what, I can catch some frogs and sell them. Because back in the 80s, the bass fishermen, they had tournaments back then where they used frogs back in the day. And I called up Christopherson Bait, talked to Al Christopherson. He said, if you can get me some frogs, I'll pay you for them. I thought, all right. I started going all across the east side of Lake Carlos, and all the neighbors kind of wondering what I was up to, and I told them, and they said, okay. And I started getting crates and crates full of frogs. And I was paid very well by Al Christopherson for many years until bass fishermen couldn't use frogs anymore. And from then on, I bought all my own fishing rods, bought all my own equipment, and of course went fishing with Dad every night. And then my dad said, you want to fish a tournament? I was nervous. I couldn't believe what he said. I said, you want to fish a tournament? I'm nobody, you know, I'm just a kid. He said, let's just go fish it. Well, I ended up fishing it the first year, and ended up cashing a check. You know, that was pretty cool. So I had a little more money in my pocket to go buy some more equipment. And as years went on, I met my husband, Glen, and we started dating. And actually our first date, I asked him, would you like to go fishing with me? And he said, sure. So I gave him a time, and of course, I was pretty nervous, you know. I'm like, oh gosh, what am I getting myself into? And I'm getting my lines tied up, trying to make sure I know what I'm doing, you know. And he shows up an hour early. I'm like, uh-oh. So that's kind of how it started. We fished league for many years. We did very well in the Douglas County Fishing Leagues. It was 5 species. I grew up fishing walleyes, but you know, we fished crappies, we fished bass, northerns. I mean, I fished everything, not just strictly walleyes. And we did well. And then my husband and I started fishing tournaments, and you know, we just rolled with it. And you know, we did well. I mean, we weren't out to win it. We weren't in it to win it. We were in it to just have some fun, go out and fish, meet some people, you know, socialize. And we ended up, you know, getting into money quite a few times. And you know, we knew Pete Harsh for many years, and you know, he helped us, you know, on detail. He always said, pay attention to detail. And I go, okay. And you know, we talk, and he taught me a lot of things about detail. And that's when I started thinking, wow, I got a little bit of an edge here. And then my husband and I, we really started producing fish. You know, even though we were catching fish before, we really started doing a lot better in tournaments. And it just kind of rolled and rolled, and we you know, got in with Pete Harsh, and you know, hey, you know, what kind of rod should we use? Should we do this? And he says, you know what? I think we can maybe come up with some ideas for you, because you know, he's a legend in the industry and fished the PWTs, FLWs, local tournaments, Cabela's tournament, MWC. I mean, he's done it all. And he said, you know what? We can come out with some models if you like to. And so then my husband and I started thinking, well, you know, I think we got respect from the, you know, the local people. They know we fish. They know we've done well in tournaments. And we're just average people. You know, we still have our full-time jobs. You know, and we just thought, you know, we can produce a high-end rod at a third of a price than what other companies have out there. And that was our biggest thing. You know, not everybody is handed everything. They have to work for it. And with Commander rods, you know, you're not spending a lot of money, and you're getting a high quality. And my husband here, Glen, he's very, very intelligent when it comes to you know, figuring out how to, you know, produce it to the market. And I'll let him tell the rest of the story and how we started out going with the rods.
I grew up on a farm in central Minnesota, and whenever we got a chance, we made it out to the lake and did some fishing. Back then, everything you caught, you took home and filleted out. Now we're happy to throw some of the bigger ones back and let them grow, reproduce, let the small ones grow up. My wife and I, we got going with, started fishing local tournaments. Didn't know if we had what it took to fish on other lakes that we're not familiar with. I got into the team walleye circuit, fished that, and found out and cashed some checks on that, and did well. And found out that, yeah, we were good enough to fish some of those tournaments. And we just went from there. We spent a lot of time on the water. When we first got married, I mean, some days we'd spend 14, 15 hours a day on the water. We worked with another rod company for a while. They had contacted us, knew we fished a lot, repped some of their rods for a while, and it wasn't quite the rods what we were looking for, and got talked into Pete Harsh about some walleye rods, what kind of actions, what we could do, and got working with him and come out with the actions that he liked and that we liked, and stuff that worked for both of us, and started producing them and bringing them out to the public about 4 years ago.
Are you in the market for a premier fishing rod? Check out Commander Rods
At commanderrods.com.